Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, so this is going to be a good one. And I've never ever said that at the beginning of a video. Now, it may not be the best video I've ever made, but the message itself is going to free you a lot. So I'm going to start with one message. I may do a second message, but that may go on to the next video. We'll see how this goes. So I'm going to start it out this way on purpose. So when I went through my first big awakening, in fact to this day it was the biggest awakening I'd ever had, and it lasted for 6 months. Now there's something that I realized, I don't know if it was a week or month into it, but on the early stages, I just became very, very aware that everything was a lie. It's all made up, all of it. And it kind of freaked me out because I was like, well, then how is the world functioning? This doesn't make any sense. It was functioning because, okay, you have to be gaslit. Gaslighting people puts them into a deep trance. And that's the thing. People are like, well, aren't you a hypnotherapist? Yeah, but what hypnosis does is it makes you conscious. It takes you out of a trance. So I started to become, I became very aware that people are they're walking zombies. And I was it was really weird. Because this was around 1996 and there was nobody to talk to. There's no one, because everybody was not. I went to my pastor thinking, well, he's awake. No, not even close, not at all. Then I went to my other pastor that lived about an hour and a half away. Same thing, but he did say, he goes, I had an experience like what you're going through, but it wasn't as big as yours. So one of the things that really weirded me out is how many people get up at the same time every day, and they just go as fast as they can, shower, brush their teeth, shave, eat food, go to the bathroom, get dressed, jump in their car, grab what they have to grab, go get gas, and just race down the freeway for an hour or so into the big city to basically work. And I realized everything's made up. Even the value of the US dollar, it's completely fake. It's completely made up. Everything is a lie that was made up by someone, and they told us that it was real. And we're like, oh, okay. So I asked my buddy Greg. He was someone who I've brought up in the last probably 3 or 4 months or 6 months. He helped me out a lot. And I just invited him over and said, hey, I got to ask you a question, man. Now, Greg went through a similar awakening about a year before I did, because he went through this real painful divorce. But it wasn't just that; it was a lot of things. And when I woke up, I think it was. Let me think if it was before or after. I don't remember. But at one point, he said to me, he goes, "Oh yeah," he goes, "There's this number that popped up, and I see it everywhere." So when he said that, because I think I brought up to him, like, dude, I keep seeing this God, I want to cuss so bad, I'll try not to, but I see this effing number everywhere, and it's driving me nuts. And he goes, well, what is it? I go, it's either 444 or it's 44. Now, I have a really strong connection to that number, so I'll try to go really quick. So my best friend when I was in high school, middle school and high school, he convinced me to play freshman football. I'd never played football. I really didn't want to, but he begged me. I go, yeah, but what if I hate it? And he goes, then I'll tell the coach that I convinced you to play, and I'll tell him, why you're quitting, etc. I'm like, oh, okay. Because back then I was too shy to tell a coach that, hey, I don't want to do it. So you do summer ball, and then you do double days, okay? And you lift weights during the summer, and then you do double days, except we did triple days. Now in Napa, it would get over 100 degrees. There was humidity. It was hell. It was, because you had to go there 3 times a day. And at the very end of it, and by the way, I don't remember if it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. It lasted a long time. At the very end of it, one of the rewards is you get your jersey number, so you stand in line. And I was the very last one in line, okay? So the coach goes, what number you want, Mike? And I go, I don't know. He goes, what position do you play? I'm like, oh, well, I'm a middle linebacker. And he goes, well, what do you want? I was like, I don't know, because I didn't really know that it mattered, right? I didn't understand that certain numbers go to certain positions and that some numbers are really wanted, like double numbers, like 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, etc. So my coach goes, well, how about this one? And my friend Marlin goes, no, get number 44. And the coach goes, oh, that number's long gone. Somebody probably grabbed that with the first 5 guys, because that's like one of the most like popular numbers that people want. And then EJ walked by, he goes, that number sucks. Number 33 is the best because he got 33. So anyways, Marlin, the coach goes, it's not here. And Marlin begged the coach, please just look through all the jerseys. So the coach kind of casually looked through a couple of stacks and he goes, it's not here. He goes, coach, please. He goes, just look, please. And I looked at Marlin and I go, what is the big deal? And he goes, I can't tell you. When it happens, you'll know. And the coach and I, we just kind of froze. We looked at him like, what are you talking about? He goes, I can't tell you. And he goes, coach, please. So the coach looked through all the stacks. He took his time, looked at every single number, lifting up each jersey to see the number. The very last stack on the bottom was number 44. So I was number 44. By the way, in the Chinese, I think it's numerology, number 4 means death. Number 44 means double death. But it may not be necessarily as dark as you think. It also means an ending, because 44 is basically the opening of the number 8. So number 8 is the symbol that goes round and round and round, like a figure 8, right? And that is, I can't forget the word, but it essentially means it's like you're stuck in a loop and you never get out. It's infinity, okay? For infinity, forever. So when you get number 44, it breaks you out of that loop, and now you get to move on to greener pastures or a new life, etc. And just now as I'm talking about this, I'm having a realization right now is that's me. I am you call it the breaker of the wheel, like what's her, Daenerys Targaryen, whatever her name is, the queen of the mother of dragons, is I break people out of their patterns, which is essentially what a heyoka is, and I've been this way my whole life. I'm going to tell you a quick story adding on to this. When I was a little kid, I was probably about 4.5 years old. It was one of the last times I was with my dad. I was on this little, I don't know what it was, little tricycle or big wheel or something like. It wasn't a big, it might have been a big wheel. Some little 3-wheeled device or 2-wheeled, I think it was a 3-wheeled device. And me and my dad went down the block, took a right, went all the way down, then we took a right into this, like a courtyard, but it wasn't a courtyard, it was a dead end to it. There was a fence, and there's this big, thousands and thousands of acre field with cows and horses, etc. And my dad was behind me. I think he was walking, and I just kind of pedaled ahead, and I take the right turn, and I'm going down, and all of a sudden, boom, I saw these 3 big horses and 3 Indians in full regalia, and I mean feathers, chieftain headdress, everything. And they all just stopped and looked at me with like this dead stare. And it was their energy that scared the shit out of me. And I kind of slammed on my brakes and I spun it around and kind of startled the horses. And I kind of pulled back. And my dad goes, Michael, it's okay. Because this was not a normal event where I lived. I mean, you don't see Indians in full regalia. Just, it was like Saturday morning. And the Indian said to me, he said to my dad. Now, they were looking at me for a little while. And my dad comes walking down and says, hey, it's okay, Michael, it's okay. And the Indian said to my dad, he's a clown. And my dad looked at him like, what? And I think my dad actually said what? And he goes, your son, he's a clown. And I think it offended my dad, but he was kind of like, oh, okay, whatever, so because the whole situation was just weird. So many years, decades later, I realized a Heyoka is a clown. Okay, and what do clowns do? What do Heyokas do? Is they snap people out of their delusion. They snap people. A delusion really is it's a pattern, like an infinity pattern that your brain got stuck in and you can't get out. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is what I am. John Overdorf had said. John Overdorf is a master NLP trainer, and as I was walking into the classroom one day after lunch, he stopped me. He goes, you are a pattern. You are a major pattern interrupt. Now, a pattern interrupt is a technique you learn in NLP. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not doing anything. He goes, that's just it though. You're not doing it consciously. He goes, everything about you is a pattern interrupt. I'm like, what? He just kind of laughed. He goes, you'll see. And eventually I did start becoming more and more conscious of, I break people's patterns all the time. It's not a bad thing. It's a really good thing. A pattern interrupt is a technique to get people out of their problems. And what happens with a lot of people is when they're living this lie that they've been just blindly like, okay, well, so this is the way life is. Oh, okay. And they get frustrated because they were taught things that were like, no, you work, make very minimal money, and you work your ass off to make these people rich, that make those people rich, who are actually in power, blah, 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 who make up the rules, who tell you who to be, what to be, how to be. And you end up being 40 years old or 50 years old and you lose your shit, you have a nervous breakdown, or maybe earlier, because you're just so miserable. And yes, by the way, NLP teaches us a lot of techniques, how to get people out of their patterns and get them to become conscious. So everything I'll do when I work with you, like I'll ask you questions, or I'll say weird things, or I'll do weird things. You're like, what are you doing? Like, these are very, like, you're during the manual, I'll even show it to you. Very specific techniques that I'm doing with people that'll get them out. Here's another one, whether it's a lie, a pattern, or whatever I said before. I forget what the third one was. But it's a fourth way of saying is you're in a stuck state. You're in a trance. You're in an infinity loop that you can't get out of. And society right now, we are going through this massive pattern interrupt. This is very much like what I was talking about music in the video before. I don't know if it's video right before this or two or three before, but everything ends up in a crescendo. It lulls and it kind of rolls like like the small little tide coming in, and then it builds and builds and builds, and it goes back down, builds and builds, and then it goes back down and builds, and then there's crescendo and orgasm, and then there's just calm and peace, and then the waves in the ocean are completely gone. It's just peaceful, calm, and perfect. So right now we are at this chaotic place, and one thing I want to say about chaos is there's actually a study, and I don't remember exactly how it is, but the way the universe progresses, the way life progresses, the way learning progresses, the way humans progress, the way everything, Mother Nature progresses, is there is periods of chaos and then peace and clarity, and then chaos and peace and clarity. This is how we grow. This is how we build. This is how we learn, and this is how we develop. So it's okay. So I found a video which I'm going to put in the description box, and it really answered a question that a lot of you guys have. And here's what it is. So I'm talking about the lie, right? Well, who made up these lies? Narcissists did, for sure, to gaslight you, to confuse you, so you just like, okay, well, here's the rules. I'm just gonna, and this is what happens. You get so gaslit by movies and television and your teachers, who were gaslit by the people that trained them, who were gaslit by the people, your professors at school, most of them have been so gaslit, it's not even funny. So they train people to be teachers, to be whatever. It's just it's a trickle down effect. It's almost like a pyramid scheme from the top all the way down to the bottom. So here it is. So about, I want to say it was almost 2 years ago, at least a year and a half ago, I was at a store, and there's someone I kind of got to know. I didn't really like the guy. He was creepy. But he really liked me. He wanted to talk to me every time I came in there. I was like, okay, try to be nice, like a dumbass. And I started realizing, like, oh, this is a effing narcissist. And I confronted him on it. And I said, I forget what I said. I said, hey, yeah, I do videos on narcissist abuse, etc., etc. Because he started the devaluing stage, and I called him on it immediately. And I was really pissed. And I got in his face, and I forget what I said, but I forget how we led into this conversation. How did he say this? He essentially, and I was talking about, there's these things called narcissist, this, and that, and he says, well, everyone's on the spectrum. And that is the lie. Absolutely not true. Now here's the thing, I instantly got a gut feeling like, oh, this is his excuse. So it's like he's saying, oh, well, everyone's on the spectrum, therefore, and here's his excuse, therefore it's okay to do these nasty things to people. Now, he didn't verbally say that, but that's exactly what he was saying. It's like, no, I've got an excuse because everyone's like this to some degree. I instantly looked at him and I said, I'm not like that at all. I've never been like that. I can't even imagine why somebody would be like that. And I said, not everyone is on that so-called spectrum. And what I'm going to say now is only narcissists are on that spectrum. And that is the truth. And I'm going to prove it. So I came across a video. Let me see if I can pull it up right now. I think I already have it. Okay, here it is. I'm going to put this in the link. A link in the right towards the top beneath my URL in my description box. Says no narcissism spectrum or subtypes, new neural findings. So they are, and there's another video I just found tonight. It's called, I'm not going to put this in there because it's an AI. It says machine learning uncovers neural pathways of narcissism, neuroscience news. So here's my point. Only narcissists are on the spectrum. Everyone else is not on the spectrum at all, period. Oh, and by the way, this video this person made, very scientific person, and they have in their description links after links after links of all this. It's like right here, Psychological Medicine, Volume 41, Issue 8, August 2011, pages 1641 through 1656 or 65. So there's a bunch of links, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I think 12 there, and there's a couple above. So the point being is this is actually being scientifically proven, like, no, not everyone's on the spectrum. That's the big lie. So I'm actually going to let her prove to you that not everyone is on the spectrum, and don't fall for that ever again from a narcissist. By the way, people who tell you stuff like this are narcissists, okay? They are defending, anytime someone defends narcissist or narcissism and saying, oh, well, you've got to understand, or here's the excuse, and here's the reason, the excuse, blame shifting, etc. This is all narcissism. This is narcissistic abuse, gaslighting, etc., etc. They're doing it right now as they're trying to and here's another word, justify why they hurt people, why they do these horrible things to people. Like, they have no intentions of changing. They don't want to change. They like doing this. It's fun to them. Long story short, this person got fired for stealing, and I saw him, and I haven't seen him in a year, but I saw him at a store. He didn't see me, and he was miserable. And one of the reasons it being is because people are learning about narcissists, learning to see the signs and what is narcissist abuse and gaslighting and all the techniques they use, narcissists right now are very confined. Even if they're in public or outside, they're psychologically confined. They're like, oh shit, I can't get away with this stuff anymore. People are figuring this out. And so even if they look for an innocent mark that's very naive, it doesn't matter, because people around them are going to, wait, what's going on here? You've changed. Like, who is this person? And they start figuring out. So narcissists right now are in a very, very miserable place, because they can't get their rush, they can't get their high, they can't They essentially can't function because, okay, as I've said in past videos, these are the tools that narcissists have developed since they're children, and they don't want to give them up because I don't have to. And they don't want to learn how to socialize and get along with people like normal people, like healthy people, because they're like, why? I have fun hurting people. I get to take advantage of people. I get to, take money from people and all kinds of stuff. Well, all of a sudden now they're going, oh shit, I don't have any social skills or social tools to function normally. What am I going to do now that I'm being restricted from doing what I normally would do? Take advantage of people, lie to people, manipulate people, take things, etc., abuse people, like all of a sudden all that stuff is being restricted to less and less and less. So don't fall for the lie that everyone does it, that everyone is on the spectrum, that everyone does drugs, because no, not everyone does drugs, and not everyone is on the spectrum. Sorry. And no, one of the things the narcissist will do is they'll try to convince you that you're a narcissist. And a lot of times what they'll do is they will whisper this in your ear after they do this. Now, if you haven't seen my advanced word salad video, click on my name, go to the bottom left of this video, look to the left, see my name, Mike Kollin. Click on that, and that will take you to the home page of my YouTube channel. And the very first video, as you scroll down a little bit, it's all by itself, is advanced word salad. That's a technique they use to confuse you and to put you in a trance, but this is a sleepy trance. And then they will literally tell you, oh, you're a narcissist, and you can't hear it if you're not trained in this stuff, if you're not consciously aware of it. I would watch that video on advanced word salad. So I had a pretty good high school career in football, and about a year and a half later, my best friend Marlin died. And this is Marlin when he was a little kid. I think this is about 5th grade or something like that, 4th grade maybe. He's on the bottom right. So yeah, on both pictures he's to the far right. He was a funny kid, and I mean freaking funny. And all the kids, especially in the left picture, that's Melinda, that's Dave Landis. Melinda I'm very close to Melinda still to this day. She married one of our high school friends, etc. And then there's the other picture with a couple of the other guys. Dave Landis in that picture too. So, and if I remember right, that's it has to be. That's El Salvador School in Napa. By the way, the El Salvador Road is the last road when you're going through Napa. Right after that, you're going to see all the grapes, the vines, and the wineries and stuff. So, when Marlin died, I completely fell apart. I mean, it took me, probably 12, 15 years to really get back into life. And even then, I cried myself to sleep probably up until about 4 or 5 years ago. So, it was a pretty sad experience. It was devastating. It was a horrible accident. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I want to share one piece. So, this was about the 3rd, I think it was the 4th day, because the parents were gone on the weekend. They came back on Monday. They took a mini vacation, not too far away. It's like Rio Vista. They get on a boat. I think they have a boat up there, and they kind of spend the weekend up there. This weekend every year they do. It's a very special thing they do. And they came back Monday, and I went by the house, and then the family wanted their own privacy, so they say come back tomorrow. And the next day was when everybody came over. We had dinner, and everyone talked and cried and hugged, and all that stuff. And it was probably about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and I think the sun had just gone down, or almost has gone down, so maybe it was a little earlier, about 7. And one of my friends came up to me. He's like, "Hey man, have you been hearing what people are talking about?" I'm like, "No." Actually, I remember who that was. That was Lewis. So we were outside on the driveway, standing pretty close to the garage, about 2 feet away, or about 3 feet away from the garage, and he goes, "Have you been hearing about the numbers?" I'm like, "No." So he said, "Well, everyone's talking about the number 4. I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, they died on the 4th at 4 o'clock, and only 4 of them died, even though 5 were in the truck." And they were all the fourth son, or the fourth son born. I'm the fourth son born. And I turned and I'm looking at Lewis, and right behind him was their address going from top to bottom on the side of the garage, and it says 4444. And I told Lewis, and he turned around. He's like, "No way." I'm like, "Yeah." So here he was, more than 5.5 years earlier, telling me, when it happens, you'll know. So I don't think I quite realized it consciously at this level, or at this time in my life, but I wanted to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was a God, or there was something else, something beyond this. And that was one of the biggest convincers of all. The final convincer really was when I woke up when I was 20 years old. That's when I was like, oh, this is all real. Everything you hear about Jesus and Buddha and God, it is all real. So I invited Greg over, and I was telling him about my awakening, and he explained how he had, and there was this number, and how you would keep seeing it, etc., etc. And then I said, I couldn't understand why people would get up every morning, go to this job, not even knowing if the job's going to be there the next day, because some businesses close, and just by blind faith, and they just do it every fucking day, every day. And I go, it's all a lie. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I know what you mean. He goes, you're right. He goes, because they got bills. They bought a house. They bought a new car. They bought their wife a new car. Now they got their second kid. Now they've got this and a mortgage. He goes, they got to pay those bills. And on top of it, they're caught up in this lie of competition. We were all put into this unbelievable competition where we buy these things that, some people will just go to a store to buy things they don't even need, or put it on their credit card. Now they got another bill they've got to pay. It's like everybody wants to be good enough, or I want to outdo the Joneses, or keep up with the Joneses, or outdo my neighbors. And so these people like push themselves beyond. One of the things I did was I kept my bills very, very low, because I saw this at a very young age. I thought, man, what happens if you lose your job? My friend Greg goes, well, you lose your home. And I was like, oh, I'm not getting caught in that. I'm not going to get caught up in that trap. It's a hell of a motivator, though. By the way, they do this in the military. I was in the military, and one of the things they want you to do, they highly encourage you, is two things. Go buy a brand new car. The U.S. military backs you. And that's one thing I remember when we were in Georgia. You could go anywhere. If you were in the military, even if you were only E2 or E3, they would give you a freaking loan no matter what. You're in the military. Because what happens is, if you don't pay your bills, they contact your sergeant, and the sergeant gets on your ass. So it's a really good bet for them. The dealerships, the banks, they know that you're going to get a ton of effing pressure put on you to make sure you pay that car payment. The other one is they want you to get married, and they really encourage this. Guess what the third one is? And they give you all kinds of bonuses and benefits and all kinds of stuff. Get pregnant and have kids. I remember when I was getting out of the military, so on the last day or before you get out, you have to go to like the dentist. They x-ray your teeth and make sure they're fine, and all kinds of stuff. You have to go to different places to sign out and turn in your stuff, etc. And I remember the sergeant that took me. I think he was like E7, and this guy was pissed, and I mean furious. And then he took me into, I forgot the name, but it's basically the on-base recruiter. He was like a recruiter. So you had to go there and you had to get him to sign the paperwork, etc. And all these different places had someone there had to sign you out. Like they had to check you out, make sure everything was okay. You didn't have a broken back, no injuries. And if you did, then that had to be put on your record. And everything had to be done. And the very last one was this guy, and he was screaming at me. Now, I don't mean the sergeant that was driving me around. I mean this other guy that was in this building, in this room, and there's two guys who was trying to recruit me. He goes, look, we'll give you $10,000. You can go out and buy a new car. Now, one thing I learned from a guy in the military said, don't fall for it. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, $10,000 isn't shit. He goes, you're going to end up with a loan on top of that for $10,000 or $15,000, because back then cars weren't as expensive. He goes, and now you're stuck. Now you're in debt, and now on top of it, they want you to get an apartment. Or you're going to want to get an apartment. He goes, dude, once you get all that stuff, you're going to get stuck. So now you have these credit cards jacked up. You've got your car payments. You've got whatever payments. You got a wife. You got kids. So the recruiter was just flipping out, and he was trying to convince me to sign back up for 5 years, not 4 years. And I was like, no, I want out. I'm getting out. And so he's just losing his shit, and I'm just like, what? And I mean, this guy was screaming at the top of his lungs, slamming shit down. God damn it, you didn't. He goes, you didn't even give me a chance to re-up you, and blah, blah, blah. And when we walked out of there, I looked at the sergeant, because this was the first time the sergeant wasn't yelling and screaming himself. And we're getting in the truck. I'm like, what's his problem? He goes, well, he didn't have a chance to actually recruit you, and that's what he's pissed about, because that's his job. If he doesn't re-recruit so many people. Oh, yeah, by the way, he didn't just offer me $10,000. He doubled it to $20,000. And he was going to throw something else in. And I think it was like air assault school. I forget what it was. Honestly don't remember, but he threw everything at me. I'm like, no, I want out. I did not want to be in there anymore. So for some reason, this sergeant kind of mellowed out, and he ended up driving me back. I think we ended up going to dinner together on base, and I think even kind of apologized. Hey, sorry, I've been yelling at you, blah, blah, blah. So then the next day I talked to another sergeant. I'm like, yo, what's the deal with that guy? And he's like, well, dude, he fell for it. I'm like, what do you mean? He got married. He bought a house. He's got 3 kids. Where is he going to go to get a job to pay for all that? He goes, he's an airborne infantry soldier. We don't have skills where you can just go get a job somewhere. So he fell for the lie, and so did a lot of people. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting married, having kids, and buying a home. It's just that a lot of people get caught up in, I have to have the best or the most of what I can afford, and they stretch themselves so thin. So essentially, he was telling me, he goes, he's just pissed off because he wants out, but he can't get out because he has all these bills and expenses. He goes, he can't afford to have a wife and kids in a home if he gets out of the army. He goes, it's not like he's going to get the same pay, same medical, and same benefits at some job somewhere. It's just not going to happen. So the naive empath in me was like, why was he taking it out on me? Blah, blah. Just the whole typical, like, God, I used to be so naive. It's because he's looking at me going, like, that's what I want. You're getting out. You're going to go live your life doing what you want to do. And I'm stuck here doing what I can't stand. So the main point of this video is, I could say don't fall for the lie, but what it really is you're not on the spectrum. So don't fall for when a narcissist will sit there and say, oh, everybody's on the spectrum. No, they're not. Hey, this is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Please click subscribe, click the like button, make a comment, and if you'd like, there's a donation link, a PayPal link right there in the description box. God bless you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.